of the session, who is Tal Pavel from the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo, and all the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll just need the share. Yeah, I have it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you see my screen, my slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation and the privilege to be here in this conference and, well, be virtually, but to take part in this conference and to be able to share with you a bit of my thoughts about the cyber insurance market in Israel, especially in terms of policy. A bit about me. Well, I'm the head of cyber studies in the information system program at the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo in Israel. I'm a lecturer and researcher in the field of internet cybersecurity, cyber threat, and mainly cyber policy. I hold a PhD in Middle Eastern studies on the issue of internet and cyber threats in the Middle East. And I'm an interviewee and keynote speaker in media outlets and conferences around the world. So what do we gonna speak today? Well, it will be about cyber issues in the insurance sector, about policy in Israel. So it will be about cyber in insurance policy in Israel. I divided it, the section of this presentation, to the section of the paper, of course. So a bit about introduction. Academic research often mention several characteristics of a cyber insurance market, which the first is the rise in cyber threats, which affect all sectors around the world, not only insurance market. So first is rise of the rise in cyber threats. Second is the rise in the complexity. Cyber threats and cyber attacks are more complex today than several years ago. The third problem is lack of information. Since the anonymity, since the attribution problem in the cyberspace, we do not have a lot of information, and it's relevant also to the insurance market, to the cyber insurance market, and is one of the key problems in the cybersecurity insurance issue. So lack of information. Another issue, another problem is lack of awareness, and we will see it, we will discuss it. Lack of awareness means that it's not only that we do not have a lot of information, all the players in the cyber insurance market, and there are challenges and problems that not relevant only to the insurance market in Israel. The academic papers reflect those challenges and problems that address, I won't say every, but several cyber insurance markets around the world. So another one is awareness, or lack of awareness of all the actors, which mean government agencies, insurance agencies, and of course the customer themselves, which all leads to the immaturity of the cyber insurance market. It's relevant to Israel, but once again, it's not unique to Israel. The immaturity of the cyber insurance market. A bit about the methodology of the research. Well, I try to understand what is the perspective of cyber insurance in officially Israeli policy documents. So in order to understand what is the official policy, if there is any kind of official policy regarding cyber insurance market. So for this matter, I analyzed official Israeli policy documents from two governmental agencies. First of all is the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, which is under Prime Minister's office. In this case, what I've done is first of all the language, and we'll discuss it. What are the languages? And there are several languages which the website operates, but I focused on two of them. We'll cover the scope of the documents that were analyzed, and of course, content analysis upon the scope. So the language, as I've mentioned, the website of Israeli National Cyber Directorate operates in several languages, which is Hebrew, English, Arabic, Russian, Spanish, and French. Well, for this study, I omitted 4 of them, which is Arabic, Russian, Spanish, and French, and I rest with Hebrew and English. So the languages, the materials that I've examined and analyzed, the materials are those that published in Hebrew and English. Of course, further research may analyze documents that appear in those other languages. So what do we have, which is the scope? In Hebrew and in English, there are different sections at the website of Israel National Cyber Directorate, which is general information and policies and news, and of course, publication, general publication. And you can see the numbers, which is the numbers of publications in each section in the Hebrew version of the website, this is our primary database. The same I've examined what exists in English. In English, you can see the same section, but different numbers of publications. So definitely the majority of publications are in Hebrew. This is the scope of the analysis. So the third step was the content analysis. Here what I've done is to look for the word insurance, where in all those documents that you can see here, I look for the word insurance, whether it's general analysis or specific one. General analysis, which means to go to those sections of general information, 51 items in Hebrew, 4 in English, and at this general section to run a query for the word insurance. The same thing I made in the news and publication section, and the last inquiry was the entire website. Once again, to find the word insurance, whether in Hebrew or in English, at the website of Israel National Directorate. The specific search was to go to every individual policy paper, 13 in Hebrew and 4 in English, and in each of them to try to find individually the word insurance specifically in those papers one by one. The same I try to do from the opposite side, not from the cyber directorate, from the cyber agency, but from the insurance regulator. And here I've checked the website of the Capital Market Insurance and Saving Authority, which is under the Ministry of Finance. So one part was to check the existence of insurance term in the publication of the relevant body that is responsible for cyber in Israel, which is the Israel National Cyber Director and the PM office. And the second thing was to try to find the word cyber in the official publication of the Capital Market and Insurance and Saving under the Ministry of Finance. Here I did the same. The language, the scope, and content analysis. So the language, we have here a few versions. There is an Hebrew version of the website, there is an English version of the website, and there is also an Arabic version of the website. Here also what I did is to omit the Arabic version and focus myself only on two versions, the Hebrew one and the English one. What is the scope? The scope of the papers, of the publications in the website is as follows. In Hebrew, as you can see the numbers, there are reports, position papers, law and regulations, and circulars. You can see the numbers. The same exists in English, but different numbers, as detailed here. So this is the scope of searching of the next stage of content analysis. This is the framework. Okay, so when we arrive to the content analysis, I've searched for the word cyber in those publications that appear here. The word cyber, once again, general and specific analysis. And general analysis, you can see the numbers of publications in laws and regulation and circulars, and of course in the entire web of Capital Market Insurance and Saving Authority. And the specific one, which means to try to find in each and every document and publication the word cyber, which means not to find the laws and regulations section and there to search the word cyber, but the specific one is to try to find in those 29 reports in Hebrew and 11 in English, in each and every one of those reports, the word cyber. And pardon, it's not a report, it's circular. So this is the scope of the research of the word cyber in the website of the authority that regulates the insurance market in Israel. And the third one is I try to understand whether, okay, not governmental agencies, what academic research have to say about it. And I try to find whether research on Israel's cyber policy indicates something about cyber insurance policy, which means not only on governmental organizations or governmental agencies, but to try to find whether an external sources, academic research, when they cover the Israel cyber policy, whether there is any kind of reflection to the cyber insurance policy. And the content analysis was to look for the word insurance. Okay, so this was the methodology. What are the findings? So the base is the same. Official Israeli policy documents, what was found in the Israel National Cyber Directorate. The word insurance in Hebrew, well, as you can see, 0 in general information, 1 in policy, 2 in news, 0 in publication, and 9 in the entire website. I mean, 9 news items or 9 publications, as a matter of fact, at the entire website in Hebrew. And 9 publications in the entire website could be 2 news items, which one can be, of course, for cyber essential for security agents, and a policy paper for small businesses, which have a small paragraph of the necessity of having insurance, a cyber insurance policy. So nine documents from different type in all over the website. It's almost nothing. In English, as you can see, there is not almost nothing, but there is nothing. No indication for insurance in term of cyber insurance at the English version of the Israel National Cyber Directorate website. But on the other hand, when I tried to find something about the policy, it was interesting to find that at the 2019 annual survey, there was a very specific vision of the cyber security insurance market in Israel. As written here, the directorate said establishing and promoting cyber insurance as a national and international venture as the third out of 5 goals for 2020 in the strategic, political, and international domain. So on one hand, we found no evidence for cyber insurance policy in Israel. But on the other hand, when it comes to an annual survey, we can find indeed that establishing and promoting cyber insurance as a national international venture is indeed one of the major goals in the relevant domain. So there is a policy, there is a vision where we want to be, but it's not implemented yet. It's not there yet. When we find what happened at the website of the Capital Market Insurance and Saving Authority, well, when I search for the word cyber, in the Hebrew version, nothing at all. And in the English version, well, you can see the same. And when I looked for the word cyber, I didn't look for cyber security or cyber threat or cyber resilience. No, specifically when there is indication of cyber in terms of cyber insurance. From time to time, you can find evidence of cyber resilience, the importance of protect yourself from cyber challenges. But I search for and I analyze them for specifically cyber in terms of cyber insurance, and this nothing at all. And in the research on Israel cyber policy, content analysis, well, as mentioned here, various documents outline Israel national cyber policy, but examining a variety of these reveals that here too, the issue of cyber insurance is not addressed as part of Israel's cyber policy or activities of the relevant bodies. So here also, at academic researchers that cover Israel's cyber policy, we found no trace for Israel cyber policy relating to cyber insurance, to the insurance market. A bit about the discussion. So we've mentioned that we have cyber threats and they are on the rise, and the same relating to the complicity of the cyber threat and cyber attacks, and the lack of information and the lack of knowledge. And in this term of lack of information, if we try to find out what do we have and what do we found from the website of Israel National Cyber Directorate and the Capital Market and Insurance and Saving Authorities, both governmental agencies that regulate one, the cyberspace, and the second, the insurance sector. And when we add the researchers, academic research on Israel's cyber policy, we found that there is almost nothing, if not nothing at all. And when we try to understand what is the awareness and what is the level of awareness, it's quite interesting, because There is a survey that was made by Israel National Directorate a year ago. And the essence of this survey was to review the level of awareness of cyber protection and its implementation in the Israeli economy. So the essence was to check the level of awareness. It's a very good one. And let's see what the results were. So the survey was, the questionnaires were sent to, there were 4,300 questionnaires that were sent by the service managers, but look at the numbers. Only less than 300 responded. Out of 4,300, less than 300 responded to the survey, which means successfully response rate only 7%. And out of these 7% that respond to this survey, that was not anonymously, it was made by or for the Israel National Cyber Director. Out of the 7% that respond to the survey, only 13% have cyber insurance, which means, as we said earlier, almost nothing. Only 30% have cyber insurance policy. Another thing, figures that came out of this survey. The main barriers are lack of knowledge of such insurance or lack of awareness. As we've mentioned in this point, lack of knowledge and awareness, which means the customers do not know that there is kind of cyber policy like that. They do not know the need of cyber insurance policy, what it's meant for, what is the advantages, what are the risks, which means 30 to 40% of the organization mentioned in this survey that they have lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. And see all the reflection in those numbers. 29% stated that they did not know the company's insurance coverage, and 32% did not know amount of the premium paid, which said that roughly 1/3 of the respondents mentioned that even if they are part of those 13% that already bought cyber insurance policy, 1/3 of those know nothing about the cyber insurance policy that they've bought. So the numbers are, as we said, almost nothing. 7% responded. From those 7%, only 13% have a cyber insurance policy. And from this 13%, 1/3 know nothing about the cyber insurance policy that they hold. So it's emphasized the lack of knowledge, the lack of awareness for cyber insurance policy. But on the other hand, the same study by the Israel National Cyber Directorate indicate that the Israeli cyber insurance market has grown 6-fold over the past 5 years and continue to grow at similar rate, which means, as we saw earlier, there is an increase, constant increase, a major one in the Israeli cyber insurance market. But once again, although there is 6-fold increase in the past 5 years in the Israel cyber insurance, the market is still immature, mainly because there is no enough information from all players, which brings us to the immaturity of the cyber insurance market. Conclusions. Okay, so we need to have much more information that will be available. Much more information that will be available for all of us in order to know the risk, to raise the awareness, to understand the need for to have this kind of cyber insurance policy. We have to have much more knowledge and information that will be available. And it's like a triangle. We have three players in this game, and we've mentioned them. The first one are the government and governmental agencies and bodies that needs to regulate or perhaps needs to have more concrete policy toward cyber insurance market and to lead initiatives to expand the usage of cyber insurance policies. The second are the cyber insurance agents and company that needs to be aware for the different type of cyber insurance policies, the advantages, the risks, and what do they offer. And if the insurance agents and insurance company do not know what is the cyber policy and do not know what to offer, they will not know how and what to offer to their customers, which means they are the second level in the need for information and knowledge to raise the awareness even of the cyber, even of insurance agencies and companies. And they are, the important things is that there are several academic publications that mention it. The importance of the insurance company and insurance agency is because they are kind of what is called private regulators of compliances. They are agents of compliance, because if a customer buys a cyber insurance policy, he needs to comply to rules, regulations, standards, and policies, and so on and so forth. So the importance of insurance companies and insurance agencies is that they act something like private regulators in the private compliance in the cyber insurance market. And the third X in this triangle is us, the customer. We need to have much more information to know what is cyber insurance policy, to know what is the cyber threats, to know what do we need, why do we need to have cyber insurance policy. So at the end of the day, we need to understand the black swan, that there are black swans, to expect the unexpected, to know that we may face unexpected events, that we need to mitigate them and protect them, in this case, using cyber policy. We need to raise the awareness and to guide and instruct and to minimize the digital gap, the knowledge gap, the awareness gap. And we need to invest. And when we mention the word invest or the term, the first thing that we think about is technology. Yeah, we need to invest in technology. But perhaps even more important than technology is human capital. Every one of us. And the end user, the customer, to understand whether he needs or what a cyber policy and what are the threats and how to mitigate those threats, in this case with cyber insurance policy. And because as Mr. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have a wonderful strategy, but if 95% of organizations have cultural issues around cybersecurity, you have a problem. And perhaps cyber insurance policy may help, perhaps not. But strategy is not enough. You need to change not only your strategy, but also your cultural issues and your cultural organizational behavior. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how old are we, what is our professional sector, and how wise are we? Because security is a process. It's not a product. It's a process, a never-ending process. And please be aware and keep in mind that computer keyboard is the best offensive weapon. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And these are the detailed contacts in case you want to follow in all those channels. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Tal. It was a great presentation. We have a few questions about the audience. They are wondering how is the Israeli market looking like? If there are big players like Allianz, Zurich, or AIG active and applying their policies.
Yeah, thank you for the question. First of all, I must admit that the essence of this paper was to cover the Israeli cyber insurance market, but I realized that it will be much more wider than the boundaries of this paper, so I divided it into two. And the next one is examining the Israeli insurance cyber market itself. And I made interviews with officials and with agents and brokers in security agencies that deal with cyber policies. And what I understand is that from all the players that I've interviewed, that currently there is no much information. And I spoke with a relevant representative from the Israel National Cyber Directorate, from the Saving and Insurance Authority, and from from insurance agencies. And the picture that reflects from all of this is that currently we do not have enough information to try to portray the real image of what is the Israeli cyber insurance market at all. No doubt that there is the real picture. Well, no doubt that the relevant governmental agencies hold this way or another part of the whole picture of this market. But it's not widespread. As I mentioned earlier, the need to share the information, to have the information with the public. And I'm quite sure, and it was reflected in those interviews, that, let's say, I understood that in the following half a year, the image will be different. There will be more initiatives, an open policy. So I think that currently the market is immature from all those three players, but it's not neglected. It's immature because it's in the first stages, but it doesn't mean that it's neglected by the authorities. That's what I can say.
Do you think that immaturity that you are mentioning is a result of each party speaking a different language? For instance, that cybersecurity professionals, practitioners, and policymakers, they have their specific language, and usually they don't understand each other.
Well, thank you for the question. It might be, and this may be a reason why I think it was a few months ago, the Israel National Cyber Directorate hold for the first time a dedicated course for insurance agents, and something like essential to cybersecurity, to perhaps to minimize the gap and to perhaps start to speak, as you said, at the same language. But once again, I'm quite sure that in something like a half a year, the picture will be a bit different. I don't know if much different, but a bit different, because there is a knowledge, there is an understanding, there is a knowledge of the importance of this market. There is a knowledge of the importance of this market and the immaturity of this market. And there are initiatives in the background to promote it. So I can say clearly that, especially from the side of the governmental agencies, that the lack of information does not reflect neglect, neglected. It means that there are initiatives that will be in several months publicly.
Great. There is a last question, but we are overrunning time, so I will forward it to you.
Thank you.
You can reply to the author because
of course.
I think that it requires some consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk. It's been great. And thank you again to all the panelists. Just a reminder that there is a keynote speech in half an hour by Dr. Jason Nurse, who was panelist as well in this session. So please share if you can.
Thank you very much. Thank you.